So John, you have to leave early.
Torah, Parshat Noach, page 16, second column, from the beginning of the column, 5 lines in the top of this second column in Noach. Okay, now the Rabbi explains the Mayim Rabbim, the Mabo is called Mei Noach, Neichel al-Yon, Neichel al-Tachtonim. And he says, what does it mean, Mayim Rabbim? The great flood waters cannot extinguish the love, because that love existed from before the neshama came into the body. That's an essential love. And Mayim Rabbim is called Mei Noach, Neichel al-Yonim, Neichel al-Tachtonim. It makes comforting and resting for, there's a higher level of Shabbos and a lower level of Shabbos. There's the earthly Shabbos, there's the heavenly Shabbos. Okay, and then the Alter Rebbe says like this. To understand all this, we need to understand why did Hashem bring the flood. If it was just to destroy the people, he could have just killed them. So he says the answer is because the Mabul was to purify the world. There's a mikveh, 40 saw. Okay? Like it says, and therefore the Mabul was good water because it purified the world. It was like a mikveh. Okay, this is what we're up to now. The yoke of making a living is also called Mei Noach. Like it says, Hashem at Brisbane Absorim said to him, listen, the Jews are not going to be so good. So there's two options. You can choose. Either Golus or Gehenim. Avram Avinu chose Golus. So therefore he says, just like it's impossible for neshama to come into Gan Eden. The Yon is Mizav HaShechina, to enjoy the Shechina. That he goes into Gehenim to get cleaned and fit and purified for Gan Eden. Like it says by Achad. The Gemara says, Motav de Ladaina. It's worth for Achad to go through the torch of Gehenim, the last Alama to come to the world to come. It's worth it. And there's also a spiritual river up there in Mikveh that's called Nahar Dinur. The neshama has to go through to go to Gan Eden, and between levels in Gan Eden.
4, right? 4. He comes into 4.
No, that's not this. This is up there. There's something called Nahar Dinur. And he says, K'meik in the same way. Aidei sheep, because the choice was Gehenim or a sheep, a slavery. Now, what was the purpose of Gehenna? We know, to cleanse, to make the person fit for the world to come. So if Avram Avinu was given the choice of Golus, that means Golus accomplishes the same thing. So the same thing, a person is able to go to the highest levels, to the highest levels. So therefore he says like this, what is the level of Shibud, slavery, is called Mei Noach. In other words, just like Mei Noach is called the waters of Noach because it purified the world, so the Parnasa worries is also called Mei Noach because it also purifies the person. Shibud, slavery, doesn't mean that we have a king. That they take taxes. That's not what Golus means. Why? He says, Shagam Bizman Beis Hamikdash Haya Aleinu Melech Yisrael. Even in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, when we had a Jewish king, in Shlomo Melech's time, the taxes were extremely high. A person, every person taxes with just 10%. Even in Shlomo Melech's time. So he says, so slavery doesn't mean that you have to pay taxes. Ala Kavana, what it means, when the Beis Hamikdash was existing, it came down such a bracha of sustenance. Eretz Yisrael was a land flowing milk and honey. Totally irrational, totally unnatural way Eretz Yisrael produced. Like it says at the end of the Gemara Mask Subis, by a cloud daggers did us upon us. Like the Gemara says, the pasuk says in Malachim, Ishtach is gafni, Ishtach is teinos, each person has his own vineyard, his own everything they had. There was no worries of parnas. So what's the difference between Galus and Beis Hamikdash? It's not taxes, because they pay taxes then too. What it means is there's no worries of parnasa versus now in Galus there is a worry for parnasa. And now every person has the problems of parnasa. To occupy themselves with physical things, and that's the mayim rabim. That is called mei noach. The mei noach, what does it do? These daigas of parnasa, shibud, slavery, which he says means the worries of making a living, that's what purifies the person. Just like Gehenna purifies the person, Golus, and that's the Neichel Deruch, the Fishaydei B'chin, is Mayim Rabim Anal. Through the Mayim Rabim, Mis'alas HaNeshama L'Madrega Yesig Gaveya, the Neshama goes up, back up, to a place higher than it was, Mikedim Estabshusa. Because only if there was Nanamiziv HaShechina, it was only a ray of the Shechina. When the Neshama goes back up, it's even higher than the ray of the Shechina. So now the Rebbe explains the worries of Parnasa. He says, just like Mei Noach purified the world, the worries of making a living purifies the person, that they go up to a place greater than they were before. To give a physical example, another physical example, is a person has surgery. Surgery is very painful, but it puts the person in a better situation than he was before. Because now it purifies, makes him, the same thing, by Daigas Parnasa, he says, purifies the person.
So it's good to have a worry about parnasa.
It's very good, as long as it doesn't control us. Commandment is out. Yosef tshuva achas shach b'shemaysim deimazeh mikol chayil mabo v'isha yisrin or mitecha cheshach dafke. Why is it even greater than Gan Eden? Because now it's darkness, it's worries about parnasa, it's evil, it's everything, and yet we do Torah mitzvahs. So that's the making darkness into light. Transforming darkness into light is a much greater light, Shlomo Melech says, than light that comes by itself. Shebachin is kaf, yisitracha, breaking evil. V'yisapcha chashechem, transforming darkness. Sha'eis kol hayom binyanim gashmi. When a person has to deal or hold it with gashmis to go worries. Betir the saparnasa, which is called cheshech, which is called darkness, and then he meditates in davening. That there's no even one blade of grass down here that doesn't have a mazel that hits it and says grow. That gives the sustenance for this whole world, like it says. There's crops that come from the sun and from the moon. The mazolis get their nourishment from the 70 angels in charge of the nation. And they get from Shmoni Efanim. And they get from the Malachim. And all the way up there from the Malchus de Ein Sof. So a person realizes, in other words like this, he has the worries of Parnas. Then he stops, he goes to daven. Davening, he doesn't go zoom. He meditates into this whole Gashmis, comes from the Mazolis, that comes from the 70 Sodom, that comes from this, comes from that, and it all comes from Elokus. And this is a infinite, limited level of Elokus. So why should it bother me if I got the real stuff? I got Elokus itself. You do a mitzvah, you connect to the essence of Hashem. So why am I worried about something that comes from A, comes from B, which comes from C, and it comes from Z? Why do I have to worry about the shtusim if I get the essence of Hashem when I do a mitzvah? So what's he doing there? He's transforming the darkness of the world to the highest level of Kedusha. So therefore he says, yeah, but the problem is investing is only good if you make money. Even if you make back only what you put in, it's also not a business. The Gemara says, you buy it for $1, you sell it for $1, that's called businessman. You're not a business. So you have an investment, you invest whatever money it is, with the hope you're going to make much more than the investment. So he says, the neshama coming down into the body is an investment that Hashem makes. He trusts us, yeah? Puts the neshama into the body, he trusts us that we're going to make a good investment. Right? We're managing his estate. So Hashem said, I'm giving you a job. So I want you to invest my money and do it the right way. So what's the ultimate purpose of this is that the neshama should, instead of dealing with the junk of the junk of the junk of the junk, he deals with the essence of Hashem himself. That's what it's supposed to be. What happens, God forbid, if the person fails all that stuff, then he owes Hashem a lot of money. He owes Hashem a lot of kedusha, because Hashem, we are Hashem's portfolio managers. If we mess up, it's no good. So he said that's why it's called Mei Noach, because after all these worries, and then you sit down and you daven, and you remove your mind from all these worries, and you realize that all these worries are junk of the junk of the junk, and now we're connecting to the essence of the essence. So that's how Mei Noach purifies the person.
Impossible.
What?
It's impossible.
First of all,
I speak for myself.
And it's happening every day of our life.
one second. That you're speaking for yourself is a given. But, like the Rebbe told this guy, the fact that you say you don't believe doesn't take away the fact that you do believe. So even if you're saying on yourself it's impossible, that doesn't take away from the fact that not only is it possible, it's probable. Why? You're right, I mean, come on. But a little or pushes away a lot of choshech. So who said we need tons and tons of or? You do one more thing, one more mitzvah, so it is possible. So the fact that you say it's impossible doesn't take away from the fact that it's possible. What?
In the middle of davening, if somebody has issues with parnasa, this and this, you cannot concentrate 100% on davening.
And what happens if a person even then, for 30 seconds says, you know what? Let me concentrate on these words. That's possible?
Of course.
So that's what he's talking about. That's the main noah that purifies the person. The 30 second, 10 seconds, whatever. Yeah?
Like a Z.
A brainstorm, lightning. Why is that impossible?
That 30 seconds is not impossible.
But probably we don't even do the 30 seconds.
I'm glad.
Yeah. That's not because we can't. We don't want to. So it's something I could and I don't want to, doesn't mean it's impossible. Instead, if you can't, then it's impossible. And Chassidus explains, the Rebbe says this countless times, that even what we think is impossible is really possible. Even when Torah says it's impossible, it's still possible. When Torah said, and there's a lot of sikhs about this, when Acher said, Rabbi said to Acher, do tshuva. And Acher said, I heard a voice from heaven that said, everybody could do tshuva chutz mi Acher. So how can I do Acher? How can I do tshuva? Right? What was his problem? He didn't learn Chassidus. Because if you learn Chassidus, you would know that even when Torah says it's impossible, tshuva is possible.
It's only tshuva.
Yeah. But that's
everything else.
Everything is tshuva. So returning.
And we go through this every day of our life.
Every day.
Wow.